The power of boundaries is rooted in self-worth. That statement might seem simple on the surface, but it holds a kind of sacred truth that reshapes lives from the inside out. Boundaries aren't something we set to punish or control others. They are a profound declaration of how we value ourselves. They are born not out of anger, but from clarity. They aren't about saying, you can't come near me, but rather, this is what I will allow in my life because I know what I deserve. We live in a culture that often confuses boundaries with selfishness, especially if you've been raised to believe that your value comes from being liked, approved of, or praised for self-sacrifice. Setting boundaries can feel like a betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's belonging. Not the kind of belonging that demands we disappear to fit in, but the kind that insists we show up whole. People who live without boundaries often feel depleted, resentful, and invisible because they've been taught that love must be earned through overperforming, over-explaining, and over-giving. But love that must be earned isn't love, it's approval. And approval is conditional. That's where the shift begins. Self-worth doesn't scream or demand, it doesn't need to. When we believe we are worthy of love, respect, and peace, our boundaries become a natural extension of that belief. They don't have to be harsh or loud, they can be quiet, firm, and unwavering. Like a riverbank that shapes the water, boundaries don't stop the flow of love, but they give it direction. They say, I will not abandon myself to make you comfortable. That sentence alone, spoken with calm certainty, can shake the very ground under someone who depends on your compliance to feed their sense of control. There are people who will react poorly to your boundaries. That's okay. The reaction doesn't mean your boundary is wrong, it just means it's working. When someone is used to benefiting from your lack of boundaries, your clarity might feel like a betrayal to them. Let it. That discomfort belongs to them, not you. What belongs to you is your peace, your truth, your right to feel safe in your relationship. It's not always easy. Setting boundaries can be one of the most vulnerable things we do. It can bring up old fears of rejection, abandonment, and conflict. But here's what we know from the research and from deep human experience. Vulnerability is the birthplace of courage. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being honest. When we say, this doesn't work for me, we are telling the truth, not just to the other person, but to ourselves. We are saying, I matter. That is the foundation of self-worth. And here's the most beautiful part. The more we practice honoring our boundaries, the more we reinforce our sense of self. We begin to see that we don't have to earn love by disappearing. We don't have to tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. We can belong to ourselves first, and from that grounded place, we can choose relationships that honor that belonging. Not all will. Some people will fall away. Let them. Let them make room for those who can meet you where you are, whole, aware, and brave. The power of boundaries isn't in how loudly we state them, but in how deeply we believe we deserve to have them. Self-worth gives us the permission to stop negotiating with people who never had our best interests at heart. It allows us to stop over-explaining our needs and start honoring them. It teaches us to say no without apology and yes without guilt. That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. That's grounded strength. So when someone asks you why you're different now, why you no longer tolerate being minimized, dismissed, or emotionally manipulated, you can say with unwavering softness, because I finally remembered who I am. That sentence won't just make someone afraid, it will make them see the truth. That their power over you was never real, it was borrowed from your silence, and you've taken it back. Authenticity is the bravest rebellion because it asks us to stand in the light of who we truly are, even when everything around us encourages us to hide. We live in a world that rewards conformity, that whispers we'll be safer if we just stay quiet, blend in, or become who others expect us to be. But the cost of that silence is steep. Every time we abandon a part of ourselves to earn acceptance, we reinforce the idea that our truth is too much or not enough. And over time, that becomes a prison. Authenticity breaks that prison wide open. To be authentic means to show up without the mask. It means choosing integrity over image, choosing to be real over being liked. That doesn't mean we share every part of ourselves with everyone. It means that what we do share is true. There is a deep, quiet kind of courage in that. It's not flashy. It doesn't always make a scene, but it's fierce, because authenticity threatens systems and people that thrive on pretense. It disrupts expectations, it's not performative, and that makes it powerful. Many of us were raised to equate approval with safety. We learned to read the room before we even knew how to read a book. We learned which parts of ourselves were too much or too sensitive or too loud, and we tucked those pieces away, believing we were doing the right thing. Survival often looked like being easy, agreeable, undemanding. But survival is not the same as living. And at some point, our souls begin to rebel against all the ways we've silenced them. That rebellion is authenticity. When we start living from our truth, when we start saying what we mean, showing what we feel, and standing in what we believe, we stop outsourcing our value. We stop looking to others for permission to be who we are. And that shift, though subtle, is seismic. It unsettles people who are invested in the version of you that was easier to manage. It rattles dynamics that relied on your silence. It changes the energy in rooms that once felt familiar, because you are no longer willing to twist yourself into a version that fits. There is grief in this too. The grief of letting go of who we were taught to be, the grief of relationships that only worked because we kept ourselves small. But authenticity doesn't just take things away, it makes room. It makes space for new connections rooted in truth. It invites people into our lives who see us, not just the polished, curated version of us. It brings a sense of peace that doesn't come from being liked, but from being known. Authenticity also calls us to hold space for contradiction. We are not one-dimensional. We are messy and evolving. We can be strong and tender, joyful and grieving, confident and unsure, all at once. Being authentic means allowing all of it to exist without shame. It means no longer performing a version of strength that denies our humanity. That's why it's rebellion. Because in a culture that often demands certainty and perfection, being real is radical. It's also contagious. When one person chooses to be honest about what they feel, it creates a ripple. It gives others permission to exhale, to be human. That's how we change our relationships, our families, our communities, not through force, but through presence, through the willingness to say, this is who I am, and I will not trade my truth for your comfort. Some people won't know what to do with your authenticity. They'll try to shrink it, deny it, twist it into something they can explain. Let them. That's not your work. Your work is to stay rooted. Your work is to keep choosing truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when your voice shakes, even when being real costs you approval. Because in the long run, it gives you your life back. Authenticity is not the easiest path, but it is the most honest. And in that honesty, there is liberation. The bravest thing we can do is to stop pretending and start belonging to ourselves first. Because when we belong to ourselves, no one can take that away. And that is what makes authenticity such a powerful act of rebellion. It sets us free. Silence in the face of manipulation is not strength, truth is. Silence can sometimes be wise, even necessary, when we're gathering our thoughts, protecting our energy, or choosing our moment. But when silence becomes a pattern we use to avoid discomfort, to keep the peace at the cost of our integrity, or to protect someone else's illusion at the expense of our reality, it stops being strength and becomes surrender. Manipulation thrives in silence. It feeds on our hesitation to speak, our fear of conflict, and our need to be seen as easy to love. But love that depends on silence is not love. It's control dressed up as harmony. When we are manipulated, we are not always sure it's happening in the moment. Manipulation can be subtle and disguised as concern, as charm, as logic. It twists our instincts and makes us second guess our own sense of what's real. It often comes with gaslighting, those small denials of our experience that leave us wondering if we're the problem. And if we've been taught to prioritize peace over truth, to be nice rather than honest, we stay quiet. We try to fix it from the inside. We think if we just explain ourselves better, if we just stay calm, if we just give a little more, things will go back to good. But manipulation doesn't disappear when we cooperate with it. It grows. Every time we remain silent in the presence of a lie or distortion of our truth, we give away a little bit of our power, not because we're weak, but because we've been conditioned to believe that avoiding conflict is the same as being strong. That's not true strength. That's fear in disguise. True strength is being willing to speak the truth, even if our voice shakes, even if it means someone won't like us, even if it breaks a pattern that was never meant to protect us. There's nothing more disorienting than realizing your silence has made you complicit in your own harm, that you kept quiet not because you agreed, but because you thought it would keep you safe. That you didn't speak up because somewhere along the way you learned that your truth was too much. But there comes a moment when your body won't let you carry that silence anymore, when your nervous system rebels, when the weight of the unspoken becomes heavier than the fear of being misunderstood. That moment is painful, but it's also sacred. It's the beginning of reclaiming your voice. Speaking truth in the face of manipulation doesn't have to be loud or angry. It can be steady, simple, and clear. It can be a quiet refusal to play a role you never auditioned for. It can be saying, "That's not what happened," or "That doesn't work for me," or "I'm not going to have this conversation if the goal isn't mutual understanding." These are sentences that disrupt the script of manipulation. They interrupt the performance. They shift the power, not by overpowering the other person, but by stepping fully into your own. And here's the truth. People who benefit from your silence will not celebrate your truth. They may resist it. They may call you difficult, ungrateful, dramatic. Let them. Those words are often used by people who fear your clarity. Your job is not to be palatable. Your job is to be honest, not cruel, not reckless, just honest. Honesty with boundaries, honesty with compassion, honesty that doesn't demand agreement but insists on self-respect. This isn't about winning. It's about no longer abandoning yourself. When you speak truth where you once stayed silent, you send a message to yourself. I am worth protecting. I am worth hearing. I will not pretend anymore. That kind of truth-telling is transformational. It doesn't always change the other person, but it always changes you. It calls you back to your own center. It repairs the damage that silence left behind. Strength is not measured by how much you can tolerate without breaking. Strength is measured by your willingness to stop tolerating what was never yours to carry. It's in your refusal to stay quiet when the cost is your peace. The bravest thing you can do in the face of manipulation is tell the truth, not to shame, not to punish, but to free yourself. Because the truth, once spoken, has a power that silence never will. You are not here to be controlled. You're here to be seen, fully, honestly, completely. That might sound obvious, but for so many of us, it's a truth we spend years trying to remember. From the time we're young, many of us are taught directly or indirectly that being seen is dangerous, that love must be earned, safety must be negotiated, and visibility must come with a price. We learn how to edit ourselves, shrink our feelings, polish our edges. We become masters at anticipating what others want from us and then performing it, smiling when we're exhausted, nodding when we disagree, saying yes when our entire body is screaming no. But all of that performance isn't presence, it's survival. It's what happens when we believe that being loved requires being managed. When we've been made to believe that love means losing ourselves in someone else's expectations, we become easy to control. And over time, control starts to feel like connection. Predictability starts to feel like peace. We confuse the absence of conflict with the presence of respect. We tell ourselves, if I can just be what they need, they'll finally see me. But they won't. Because what they're responding to isn't really you. It's the version of you that has been carefully edited for their comfort. Being seen is a risk. It means showing up without armor. It means being willing to say, this is who I am, even when there's no guarantee of being accepted. That kind of visibility can feel terrifying, especially if you've been in relationships where your truth was used against you. But there comes a point where the cost of invisibility is higher than the fear of being seen. There comes a moment when you realize that the people who truly love you will never require you to disappear in order to stay. Control is not love. It's fear disguised as protection. It's power dressed up as care. People who need to control you are not connecting with your heart. They're trying to manage your behavior. They're not asking, who are you? They're saying, be who I need you to be so I feel better. And when we don't know our own worth, we often comply. We confuse being chosen with being valued. But being chosen by someone who only wants the parts of you they can mold is not a gift. It's a contract. And it comes with fine print that always demands your silence, your softness, your surrender. You are not here to be manageable. You are not here to be pleasing, palatable, or small. You are not here to meet someone else's emotional budget while bankrupting your own. You are here to be seen for your joy, your pain, your wisdom, your flaws, your depth, your light. You are here to speak the truth of your experience, even if it contradicts someone else's version of the story. You are here to take up space, to draw boundaries, to be whole. And yes, that kind of presence will be too much for some people. People who relied on your compliance may feel threatened by your clarity. Let them feel it. Let them wrestle with their discomfort. That's not your responsibility to manage. Your only responsibility is to remain honest with yourself. Because the right people, the ones who are capable of love, not just attachment, will never require your invisibility to feel secure. So this is the reclamation, coming home to yourself, refusing to apologize for your truth, and recognizing that your value was never up for debate. You were never meant to be molded. You were meant to be met. And if someone can't meet you where you are, it doesn't mean you need to lower yourself. It means you keep walking, keep standing, keep shining in your authenticity. You are not too much. You are not too emotional, too opinionated, too complex, too intense. You are not a burden to be managed. You are a person to be seen. The moment you begin to embody that truth, everything changes. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you stop betraying yourself to survive it. That's the shift, from being controlled to being conscious, from being used to being valued, from performing to belonging. You are not here to be controlled, you are here to be seen. And the more you show up as yourself, the more you give others permission to do the same. That's how we break cycles. That's how we build lives rooted in truth, not fear. It starts with one choice, one voice, one brave moment at a time.